Hey, it's what is it today? It's Wednesday, February 12th.
Wednesday,
Packaging Today
February
Show.
12th,
Wednesday.
Packaging Today Show.
All right, man, what are we talking about? We are talking about, oh my God, shut up. What are we talking about? We're talking about tariffs on aluminum, 25%, aluminum and steel, but we don't really do a lot of steel packaging.
I mean, we could,
We could.
but not anymore.
No. So we'll get into how these tariffs could potentially impact brands that you love. And if you're a packaging designer, maybe some of the decisions that you'll be making this year. Let's get to it. All right, man. Adam Peak, People of Packaging Podcast. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be back in my house. It was a couple weeks between Nashville and Dallas, and so it was great to get back last night, and get all this set up. Approximately 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Before, if you don't know, like when I travel, I do like bring a bunch of my podcast gear with me, and so I tear down a lot of my studio setup. Studio is a loose phrase. And so I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go set it all back up before we jump on.
Yeah. So all right. So then big news. Trump, with the tariffs that are happening, whether you're for him, against him, doesn't matter. It's just this is what's happening. Putting 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. So how does that impact brands? Like I see a brand over your shoulder, two brands over your shoulder that have aluminum cans.
Yeah. So we've got Not Beer, which is an emerging brand of sparkling water. Excuse me. And then and then a Coca-Cola company, which is a soda company. If you've heard of that.
It's an up and coming soda company. And what are they doing? Look, this is the new 16-ounce can. They've just made it smaller.
Yeah, they just made it. It's going to be shrinkflation. They're just going to sell you concentrate, and then you have to mix it in with the Not Beer to make Coke. Yeah, I mean, listen, the whole tariff thing, I think, is super fluid, and so we have to be able to talk about it because it's important. So the story, and I think it was in CBS. So anytime, excuse me, anytime packaging shows up on CBS, we should probably be talking about it. Was that the importing of aluminum? Man, I have something in my throat, Avelio. I'm so sorry. This is like the worst. It's the worst. Sounds
power through it.
Sounds so good. The importing of aluminum happens a lot from Canada, from Mexico, from overseas. Even with US-based manufacturers of aluminum, they're still importing the aluminum. And so the cost is going to go up 25% on the actual aluminum. I think I've explained this before, but if it's a retail product, it's not just 25% of the cost of the aluminum. That's going to trickle all the way through to retail, and the prices are going to go up. And I think Hugh brings up a great point here. You can't just switch over. And Hugh, thank you for sending us the article, by the way. Shout out to Hugh Curtis. You can't just switch from aluminum to PET like that. And with the way that the tariffs are, just
unless you're a Coke, right? Because you've already brought in your aluminum, you already made that purchase, and you can just slow down your aluminum can production and then just move into plastics.
I mean, maybe, but what if everyone's trying to do it, right? Like Hugh says, I mean, if now everyone's trying to get the PET, preforms to make their bottles, and you got to try to ratchet that up, then that's a whole problem. So it's not like this is just going to be 25%. We'll just eat the cost until we can ratchet this thing up. But the impact is potentially less aluminum and more PET. That's if the tariffs hold.
So we should be investing in plastic, is what you're telling me, right? Plastic straws, plastic bottles.
Yeah, the paper straws got banned. Yeah, I mean,
what's up, Andrew?
What's up, Andrew? What's up, Chris?
You got
Sorry.
Chris saying, I wonder how this aluminum tariff will affect Ball Corporation. That's a great question.
It's listen. This is the whole tariff thing, and all I've really read and heard about it is it's a negotiation tactic,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, everybody already knows it. It's not really much of a negotiation tactic. If we are talking about it as like, it's not like Canada is like, "Oh, we didn't expect this. And if it is in fact just a negotiation tactic to get whatever it is that is wanted, and then the tariffs will get dropped. I think it's a little bit silly. And I mean, Andrew drops in with this comment here. I would hang tight if I were Coke because there's too much volatility. And that's my point. Is anytime there are things like executive actions or executive orders that can just like make something happen as fast as they can happen, they can then be pulled away. And so
Yeah.
you can't. It takes a lot to change over a supply chain. We're talking months and maybe even years to switch. So if the tariffs do hold, the costs are going to be felt immediately, and then the prices are going to go up. So it's going to happen immediately, no doubt.
Okay, so all right. So, Hugh's point here is you'd have to imagine that large players like Coke, Pepsi, et cetera, have planned and brought forward inbounds and increased their hands on inventory. Not necessarily, right? Because like this, even though this has been talked about for a little while, to make that switch and place those orders, it's not like if I placed an order last month and this happens today, but that material doesn't actually hit the shores until 2 weeks from now, or this goes into effect as soon as the raw materials hit our borders. That's the thing, right? So
Yep.
even if they've placed orders ahead of time, it's once it shows up, that's when those tariffs hit you.
Yeah.
John Papp says let the choice is pretty simple. I think either we pay more or increase plastic consumption. Yeah, and that's and then
That's really it. I mean,
it's
at the end of the day, that's kind of what's going to happen, because we can't just
I don't know.
we can't just fire up aluminum production.
Okay, but let's think this through, right? So if I go to my grocery store and I go down the drinks, I wish I had like the
Wayne's World.
Yeah. Right. So let's imagine you go to your grocery store, you go down the drinks aisle, everything in cans has gone up. Tariffs on aluminum are 25%. What's that roll out to, would you say, on a 12-pack of beer, of soda?
Let's say it increases. Let's say a 12-pack of beer, or let's say a six-pack of beer is, I don't know how much they are now. I live in Utah. We're not even allowed to buy.
$7.
There's no way a 6-pack of beer is only $7.
I don't know.
We'll say it's $12.
Right.
It's probably going to go from 12 to 15.
You think that much?
Uh-huh.
That's insane. All right.
Because it's not, again,
it's not $7 beer.
It's not just the cost of it's not just the cost on the tariff, right? Like there's a ripple effect that's going to go. No one's going to want to try to lose money on this.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is it's just, so it's going to have to go to, from the manufacturer who has to buy the aluminum. So their cost is going to go up. So then they're going to kick that over to the brand. Their cost is going to go up, but the cost is going to go up with the distributor. The cost is going to go up with the retailer. And by the time all of that has happened on one can, so if a can goes up, I don't know, 5 cents, I have no idea. And that's 30 cents. That could come out to a couple dollars on a 6-pack at the end of it.
All right. So then we go down the aisle. We've got all of this. Jeffrey H says that cost to the retail is usually 7 times.
Yeah. That's about right. I mean, it's not, so whatever those tariffs are, and if again, tariffs are effective if the cost delta is within reason to onshore manufacturing. That makes sense. Tariffs are simply this. It's just either an alternative, right? In this case, a switch to a cheaper material, or a tax that is paid by the American consumer. It's just basic economics. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just telling you what it is, right?
Yeah. All right. So then, all right, we get to the grocery store. We go down the aisle. We've got all this canned stuff. Prices have gone up. when you go down the aisle further and you've got the cans of Coke that are, you got the 6-pack of the plastic bottles, those are already more expensive than the 6-pack of aluminum cans. So now I either choose.
I don't think so.
Oh, they are. Like if you're like if you're doing like the Gatorade things, just because it's the overall volume.
I'm looking this up. I have no idea.
But is my decision.
I don't drink soda. I don't drink soda or beer, and so I'm like the worst.
So those are my options. Or do I go to like a 2-liter bottle? Right, like that's cheaper. Or do I just not do it at all? Or do I just go find kombucha that's in a glass jar and buy that and call it a day?
I don't know. I don't think the people who are concerned about inflation on Coke Zero are the
moving the kombucha.
We're gonna do a quick pivot over to kombucha. Let's see here. Cost.
Could we see Coke in a Tetra Pak?
I don't know about the oh, let's see. What does ChatGPT say? That's what I was going to go to. Average 6-pack of beer. No, I don't think because of the carbonation. I think the options are glass, plastic, or aluminum. I don't know. I've never seen a carbonated drink.
No, I haven't either.
They probably explode it.
Yeah, Chris says it's $10.75 for a 6-pack of beer, and Hugh. That's the reason he drinks maple syrup.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you can control the cost.
Yeah. But
okay, it says.
I think we're just going to go without. I don't know that people are going to shift over to bottles, plastic bottles.
Well, I think it's a good point too on like the 2-liter front, or they're just going to go to more private brands. Because the private brands have always been a little bit less expensive, so there's going to be a market shift, no doubt. I mean, if these things hold over a longer period of time, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Jeff agrees that that's probably not going to work with the Tetra Pak.
Yeah, so go stock up. Buy pallets of your favorite aluminum cans soda, and put it in your. It's going to be just like COVID.
What's going to happen to brands like Liquid Death that have painted themselves into a corner where they are a death to plastic, right? They are anti-plastic. So you've got no option but to raise the price.
Yep.
I did have somebody on one of my posts say that with all the amount of recycling we do in the U.S. on aluminum, why can't we just use that aluminum? Which I think the answer is that we do, right? But there's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, we recycle aluminum. I think it's like 60% of all aluminum that's ever been manufactured is still in play, which, by the way, makes it not infinitely recyclable because that means 40% of it is somewhere else. I don't know what the exact number is, but that aluminum, like to recycle something, you don't just recycle from nothing. You have to have feedstock, and the feedstock is either the aluminum that continues to be in perpetuity, but if there is degradation of the amount, so if there's only 60 or 70% or whatever it is, then that means the amount of recycled aluminum is going to continue to go down because we have to continue bringing it in from other places.
Yeah, and the amount of aluminum that we're recycling doesn't always go back to cans.
Correct.
That people think I put a can in, I get a can out, and that's not really the way that it works. Right.
No.
And the number of drinks brands that are out that continue to grow, like the amount of requirement just continues to increase. So it's not like a one in, one out. And that's, I think, again, something that people don't understand. We don't have time to think about.
Overall, aluminum is growing was it CAGR in the packaging sector, and that's one of the few that has continued to grow because there was a spike during COVID and they've sort of they kind of leveled off and they've continued to grow. So there's a big push towards aluminum. Maybe that's going to start to drop off. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll see Coke and cardboard. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Leave your questions here. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Hugh, thanks for the tip on this article. That was great. Before we go, for the smaller brands from Hugh, this might have a knock-on effect to decorating cost-cutting measure, looking for alternatives to sleeves. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunity here. I think, with everything that changes, there's opportunity to do something different. So can't wait to see what happens.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.